When I think of polarizing games on the NES, the game that first comes to mind is Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Even though a lot of people absolutely loved it, like myself, some diehard Zelda fans were disappointed with it at the time because it used a completely different style than the original. But another game that played a lot like Zelda 2, The Battle of Olympus, never had that stigma. It offered a lot of gameplay similarities, but had a completely different storyline concept. The game was packed with a large world you could explore, with lots of items, enemies, and hidden secrets. But how exactly does it compare to Zelda 2, Castlevania 2, Faxanadu, and other games like it? In this video, I'll answer that question and tell you all about the ins and outs and ups and downs of the Battle of Olympus. Before I dive in though, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell below, and let me know in the comments what you remember about this game. As you already may have guessed from the title, the Battle of Olympus takes place in ancient Greece, where Hades, the god of the dead, has taken Helene captive. In fact, according to the game's manual, she was assumed to have died after being bitten by a venomous snake, but instead, Hades has just taken her soul captive in his netherworld of Tartarus. Well then, that's a relief, isn't it? Anyway, Helene is the girlfriend of Orpheus, the main character you take control of in this adventure. So the places you'll be visiting are actual regions in Greece, and the monsters you fight are straight from Greek mythology. And even though the game's currency is olives, well, the sprite for it doesn't even look like an olive. But never mind that. These are actually used to buy some crucial items, and you lose half of them if you die. Unlike in some other games, you actually have to crouch down near an item to pick it up, which is a little annoying too, but you do get used to it. A lot of the game consists of going between areas, finding a special item or a key, handing it to one of the gods, and unlocking new pathways. I couldn't even talk to Athena, for instance, until I did a task for Zeus. Other NPCs require you to pick up items before proceeding, and so on. This means you'll have to do quite a bit of backtracking unless you have the routes memorized, which I have to admit is a bit of a drag, but it's still a lot less confusing than the NES games from this time where you aren't even given any clues at all. It was a totally different world back then and we didn't have the internet. There isn't really a world map, but there is an overworld screen that shows you where you generally are in relation to other areas. And if corniness is your thing, you'll also get a kick out of some of the dialogue too, like from this guy. Hermes is gone, summoned by Zeus. Get out of here. Wow, so the Grecian world sure isn't very hospitable. There's also some other laughs to be had in addition to this too. My favorite item in the game when I was younger was always the Hermes sandals. This was because they allowed you to invert your gravity and walk along the ceilings. You can also use them mid-jump, which produces a wild effect. It was so fun to avoid monsters and make your way through the world from a totally different perspective like this. The only other NES game I can think of that did anything like this was Metal Storm, which came out after this one and may have even been influenced by it. The Battle of Olympus has taken a lot of flack for ripping off Zelda 2, and frankly, I can totally see why. For instance, the color schemes and appearance of the villages, including the buildings, doors, and fountains, look like they were almost lifted straight from Zelda 2, and the similarities don't end there either. The jump, crouch, and weapon animations look almost identical, and the NPCs you meet along your adventure look like they could have come from the world of Hyrule. Even the title screens are thematically similar, just take a look at this. They both have that whole water and dark starry background thing going on. And to be honest, it seems like a lot of these similarities were intentional. The game's publisher Broderbund even used this to their advantage in its own marketing campaign, where it made explicit reference to the Zelda titles in its commercial for the game. Check this out.
The action was blazing in Zelda. The adventure was a blast with Link. Now experience Guardian Legend.
Experience Battle of Olympus! Battle of Olympus is the most action-packed adventure of all time. Select your weapons and enter ancient Greece with vicious serpents, giant bulls, rock monsters, flying Pegasus, two-headed dogs, poisonous snakes, and the shadow of absolute evil. Battle of Olympus!
Guardian Legend.
Which is the most action-packed adventure?
You decide.
In one of his own videos, the angry video game nerd even said he believed the Battle of Olympus was actually the third Zelda game when he was a child. And while at first I thought that seemed ridiculous, his explanation actually made some sense.
Now, you might be wondering, how could it be a Zelda game if it doesn't say Zelda in the title? My reasoning as a kid, this is my childhood logic, was that it was the Legend of Zelda, the adventure of Link, the battle of the Olympus.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, as kid logic goes, right?
It made enough sense, you know. All right.
Unlike Zelda 2 though, there's a little sub-menu where you can switch between weapons and you eventually get a total of 4. You can also use that same menu to select a special item, and these allow you to do things like uncover secret passages, restore your health, or even summon a Pegasus to whisk you away into the air. It's easy to toggle between them, and you'll need to use different items frequently. The Battle of Olympus does have a password system, but it's one of those grueling 24 characters long ones. That's an ancient relic of the time it came from, and I think this title would have worked a lot better with a battery backup. That being said, if you know the basic routes, you can complete the game in less than 2 hours. So to answer the question in the video title, the Battle of Olympus was so ignored just because it was overshadowed by other games like it. And to be sure, it ripped off a lot of stuff from Zelda 2, but it's also a really fun game in its own right. The Greek flavor made it stand out, and it had smooth controls and some open-ended gameplay that was pretty rare in those days. As far as NES music goes, this one had some pretty good tunes as well, and the boss battles were pretty fun, especially against this boulder-throwing Cyclops dude. The Battle of Olympus was also balanced better than many NES games, and it was a lot more forgiving than the most difficult ones. It didn't have any of those crazy one-hit kills, and it did allow unlimited continues. And it certainly wasn't as cryptic with its clues and destinations as Castlevania 2 was, or anything like that. This is a super overlooked game that's one of the best of its kind on the system, and it holds up pretty well today. I definitely recommend it, and you should certainly give this one a try. I know a lot of people watching this video played the Battle of Olympus growing up, so I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what you think about it, and let me know, do you believe it was just a straight up ripoff of Zelda 2? If you refuse to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell below, I'll put each and every one of your NES games into a toaster and destroy them. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy seeing other videos I make in the future, so if you want to see them before anyone else, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a Patreon patron or via the YouTube Join feature.